Anton, do you remember the other day in Singapore, you were talking about what young people do wrong. What do you think they could do right?
It comes down to a number of things, and they are all connected. But probably one of the most important things, I think, is actually the way people view money.
Right.
And the way there's two main problems with most people in the way that they view money. The first major problem that I've picked up on over the years is people not really understanding the function of money, why it exists. And if you don't understand why money exists and its real function, you tend to have no respect for it. And the second thing is actually to do with emotion towards money. So having some sort of emotional barrier towards money itself. So, with the first one, for example, like for the function of money and the purpose of why it actually exists, we're always told these messages where, like, for example, money is the root of all evil. Money doesn't make you happy. The more money you have, the more problems you're going to have. But I just want you to think about it for a second, because it's pretty damn obvious, okay? But people always miss this point. Just imagine a world that didn't have any money in it at all. Money obviously has a function. And, in your own time, you can go and look at this online, because it's pretty well known amongst people who understand the function of money. So look up the double coincidence of wants. The double coincidence of wants is really important to understanding the function of money. Because without money, we essentially live in a barter economy. And everything that we're used to consuming in the world now has come about because of the function of money. And it makes society work. It's something that if you understand why it exists, to solve the need of the double coincidence of wants, you respect it more.
Right.
And people don't get this. So look up the double coincidence of wants and look up the alternatives. So the barter economy, that's the alternative. And we're led to believe a lot of the time that wanting money is a bad thing. And people blur the lines between wanting to do better for yourself and your family and that type of greed, and the greed of harming or abusing other people, and money is the medium through that. So one, in my mind, is a positive greed, in that you want to do better for yourself and you want to do better for your family. In my mind, there's nothing wrong with that. The other type of greed, obviously, is not good. It's a negative greed, where you're harming other people to become wealthy. And you don't have to do that. If you just understand the function of money, firstly, and respect it, you'll realize that money isn't the root of all evil. It's greed that's the root of all evil, in a negative sense, when you're harming other people.
Sure.
Money has a function, and there's a positive greed. So again, imagine your life or the world without money in it. Everything that you consume, everything that you experience these days is a function of the monetary system that's built up over hundreds of years. And we've come from the barter economy to be where we are today. Without it, society literally would not function. So understand it and respect it, That's the first thing. And understand the difference between positive and negative greed, and do the right things. And what you've also got to understand as well is money itself. In enterprise, for example, there's only two inputs to enterprise: capital and labor. And what you've got to understand is that money itself is a commodity. And labor is a commodity as well. And they both have prices. So capital has a price and labor has a price. So for capital, the price is interest. And for labor, it's the price that labor is willing to work for. So there's a labor market. And in any enterprise, there's just two inputs, capital and labor. And capital markets are absolutely necessary. Society would not function without capital markets because capital is a commodity and has a price, and it needs to be transacted. And it allocates resources as optimally as possible because there's demand and supply for capital and demand and supply for labor. And when labor wants too much of the share of enterprise and capital gets too less, capital leaves. It goes away. And that's not good for labor long term. So when you understand the function of money and capital markets, you understand that it's absolutely necessary for them to exist. Because in all circumstances in history, when capital has been locked out of the market and left, there's been widespread depression. Yeah. Money makes society work. And a small problem is that, these days it's very popular to have this view of the world, this view of money, that the system is broken and doesn't work. Well, it does, because there is no better alternative. It's not perfect, but there's no better alternative. And just because, for example, someone was born with no capital doesn't mean the system is wrong or unfair. They just need to understand the role of money and understand its function. So all of these messages that we get about money, so money is the root of all evil. No, it's not. Greed is. Money doesn't make you happy. Well, people that I know and myself with money who have done quite well for themselves, we know that. That we're not stupid. These guys aren't stupid. And they absolutely know it doesn't make them happy. They're generally speaking exactly the same as they were when they were young and had no money. They're exactly the same type of people, but they're just a little bit older and a little bit wiser. And the other sayings, so the more money you have, the more problems you have. Well, it's just not the case. The more money, you only have problems if you don't manage your money properly. So if you manage it well, then you're gonna do okay. You're actually probably gonna be more comfortable, more relaxed, have more freedom, more choices, and probably it helps you become happier. It doesn't make you happy, it just helps you become happier. So all these messages that people get told, constantly growing up, this creates the second problem as well. So first of all, not understanding the function of money, but secondly, also having emotional barriers to money. This is the second problem. And actually, I can just go off and I'll come back in a second to illustrate the point.
Okay.
All right.
All right. What do you?
I'll be back in a second. Wait there. I can go and get something and to illustrate the point more accurately.
Okay. Right, mate.
Go back in.
Okay.
Go back in. I'll show you what I properly mean.
Okay.
Okay. So, $20.
Yeah. Well,
So it's $20 on the table.
okay.
Look at it again. Look at it.
Is this a magic trick or?
No, it's not a magic trick.
Okay.
So when you look at the $20,
Yeah.
what do you think of it?
That's could buy me a couple of drinks or a meal or a cinema ticket, whatever.
Okay.
Yeah.
But that's what it can buy you.
Sure.
But what do you actually think of it?
Well, it's money. It's,
Yeah. So, okay.
Okay.
So not much.
Right.
Right. Okay. Now let's move on. What about $100?
Sure. It's again, I think about it in terms of what I can buy with it, and that's
Okay.
a night out or going to a nice restaurant, whatever.
So yeah, it's like a night out maybe with a few other people, like
Sure.
go to a nice restaurant, have a few drinks,
Yeah.
take your family out, whatever, right?
Yeah.
Well, what do you think of it?
I mean, it's a decent amount of money. If I lost it, I'd be a bit annoyed, sort of thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, let's make the stakes higher.
Okay.
So here's $1,000.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah. So
It's $1,000.
sure.
What do you think of that?
So it's become a decent amount of money.
Okay.
Yeah, it's
What
quite a lot.
What can you buy with $1,000?
Well, like you could buy, I don't know, sort of appliances, things that people typically buy with.
Yeah, phones, TVs.
Sure, games, consoles, whatever.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. So let's take this to a slightly higher level.
Okay.
$5,000.
Wow. Yep, that's
So
about right.
What do you think of the $5,000?
Well, that is a lot of money by any objective standards. That's like what? It's, somebody's monthly or even salary for 2 months.
Sure.
Quite a few people.
So what do you think of it?
Again, it's a considerable amount of money for a lot of people.
Now I could put any amount of money down on that table.
Sure.
I could put 10,000, 100,000, a million. But let's go back to the beginning. Let's take off the 5, the 1,000, and the 100, and go back to the 20.
Sure.
And the next question is this: what do you think the $20 note thinks of you?
Nothing. It's just money. It's just a piece of paper.
Of course,
Right.
it can't think.
Yeah.
It's a piece of paper with 20 written on it.
Sure.
It's a commodity. It doesn't think. It's a commodity that's used to transact for goods and services to satisfy wants and needs. That's all it is. Okay. The problem with it, with most people, what they don't understand is that all the problems with money exist with them,
Sure.
not with the money. The money doesn't think anything of you. So whether it's $20, $100, $1,000, $5,000, $10,000, $100,000, $1 million, it doesn't matter. Because $1 million or $100,000 or $10,000 is just a whole bunch of 20s that think nothing of you. So there's no difference except monetary value. So this is the second major problem. It's having emotional barriers, because the more money I put down on the table, the more you think of it.
Sure.
Because you think automatically of what it can buy you to satisfy wants and needs.
Right.
The key is to be indifferent. So going right back to the beginning, understanding the function of money is very important in order to respect money. But at the same time, you also have to reduce to zero your emotional barriers, and you have to be indifferent. Now, this brings up another interesting point. How can you actually be respectful of money, but at the same time be indifferent? It's kind of contradictory,
Yeah.
okay? But in this context, it's not contradictory.
Sure.
And I'll tell you why. Because respect in this context is simply having awareness.
Yeah.
So it's having awareness of what money actually is and being indifferent to money when you look at it, when you see more and more and more of it. And that's the key. So being aware and understanding money, where it comes from. So if you can actually manage to understand it properly and understand its function and be aware and be respectful to it, but at the same time be indifferent, that's the key to actually starting on the road to becoming successful. Because money will come to you, you will respect it, but you also know at the same time what it can and can't buy you, but you're indifferent to it as well.
Sure.
And if that makes sense to you,
Yeah.
then you've got through that barrier.
Sure.
Anyway, we have a dinner booked at a restaurant, so we should hit the road. I'm quite hungry.
Okay.
Okay.